Good morning. My name is Brax Montier. I'm with UFLTV, and I'm here interviewing. Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Private Investigator E. Christian Warmsley with Intermountain Integrity Investigations.
Wonderful. And I have a few questions for you about being a private investigator as it relates to divorce cases and family law. So, my first question. Can you describe what a typical day is and the services you perform, when you're brought in for a divorce case?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually in divorce cases, most of the time we're brought in late.
Yeah.
When we should be brought in like right at the beginning. It serves the client well to be able to have certain evidence for the attorney to be able to adjudicate.
Wonderful. What can a private investigator do that private citizens can't?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
Yeah. Special, what would be the word? Allowances for private investigators?
Well, we are governed by the Department of Public Safety, Homeland Security, so yeah, we have to have certain licensing to do the things that we perform. So an ordinary person, they have to be very careful in the things that they do, especially when they're trying to investigate their own case. You can't do a lot of things that we do because there's a lot of things we do. You might end up getting a restraining order or stalking injunction or all these things. So for the public, I think it's best to leave it up to the professionals that know what they're doing, and it holds up in court, and that's the main reason or why do it at all, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You wouldn't want somebody who has read a couple Sherlock Holmes novels to just jump in and think that they can do what you can do.
No doubt. A lot of people do believe that they can do things like that, and I would highly suggest that they not.
Are there any special tools that private investigators have access to that normal citizens don't?
Well, absolutely. I'm not going to go into detail, as we spoke about sources and methods. Absolutely, we have a wide range of different tools that we use to obtain our objectives. I won't even give you an example, but just you look at movies a lot and things like that. We have those abilities to do certain things. Yeah.
Awesome.
Some investigators more than others.
Yeah. That would make sense. What are some of the common red flags that prompt someone to hire a private investigator during a divorce?
During a divorce, right?
Yeah.
I would highly say the red flag is you are not happy in a relationship, in a marriage, and you plan on getting the divorce. However, the red flags is if you believe that your spouse is being unfaithful, that brings a whole set of different dangers in life, especially in the days and times we live now. Once you insert another person into your relationship, you never know how the other person is going to react. Either the spouse is going to get attached to the third guy, or the third guy is going to get attached to the spouse, and it can cause some very bad things to occur. Homicide is one of them. It's a classic love triangle, right?
Yeah.
So, but the red flags is when your relationship is hit a point where you guys feel like, neither one of you are happy, quote unquote, happy. What is happy, right? We all have issues in relationships. We understand that. However, as a human being, when it's time to move on to something that's going to be more beneficial to you mentally, spiritually, not economically, because the grass is not greener on the other side. This is different
Yeah.
shade of green, right? So, yeah, the triggers would be cheating spouse, violence. The kids are not being taken care of emotionally. A lot of fighting in the house. Just everything you can think of, it can happen.
Okay. Um, when you're doing your investigating, what kind of ethical issues arise when you work in domestic relations cases, and how do you navigate those kind of gray areas when uncovering certain evidence? Like if you find out that the kid that he has been fathering for 10 plus years isn't actually his kid, or something that's life altering for a family. How do you navigate those kind of mores?
Yeah, those really are not. Uh, those are a small little sliver, but I would say more. Ask the question again.
Of course. What kind of ethical issues arise in your work as it relates to domestic relations cases? How do you navigate the ethical gray areas when uncovering evidence that could be life altering for a family?
Yeah. Okay. From the beginning, if you retain Intermountain Integrity Investigations, we have a sit down with you. Okay. And we go over some guidelines. And those are full circle, those are not negotiable. Number one, you have to follow our tutelage. We're going to consult you, not just investigate your case, but we're going to consult you on how to conduct yourself. Um, the ethical things, it's black and white for us. Now, we work for our client, correct?
Yeah.
And we want anything that we obtain to help them get closure or to obtain the objective. However, if we find that something comes up where the client is absolutely wrong, no, we don't share that. We come this truth and sanitizer.
Okay. I mean, that would make a lot of sense. You wouldn't, somebody may have just worked themselves up into a froth and said, I need to find out. And they believe that they're right because it feels good to them, but, they may just be wrong. And
well, a lot of times they are. Yeah, a
yeah.
lot of times clients are, but most of the time they're absolutely correct. And so what we do is we move towards how do we gather the evidence, and then how we consult them on how to go forward. Then I'm not talking about legal terms, but as a person, there's no need to be if you know you caught your spouse cheating, there's no need to beat them down. That can cause other problems. So you do it with softness as much as you can, but same token, we have to do our job. So there is no gray area in ethics. It's either this or that. I don't work in gray areas.
That's great. So the advancements in technology and social media, how has that changed how you investigate in divorce cases? Has it become a lot easier? Are people unknowingly tattling on themselves often?
Yeah. The main thing people have to understand is that everything you do on your phone since conception or computer is there forever. There's no washing it out, or you can destroy it, yes. But even when you destroy it, if you don't destroy the correct mechanisms inside the computer, they're obtainable. And whatever you put out there in the sphere, right, out there in social media or whatever, you might not have it, but other people do. So it never leaves. And as far as things that if you have a device and you've been doing all this, so we can get everything since conception of the phone. So I would encourage people, young kids more than anything, to be careful what you put out there.
I would imagine that somebody who, you know, what if you found evidence that may lead somebody to a conclusion that isn't actually the truth? You don't work in gray areas, so would you just present that to them? Say, this is what we found. Interpret that how you will.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And so if we work for you, naturally, we don't want to see you go down a rabbit hole and end up losing the case. But that's
Yeah.
not what we're about. We're about obtaining the objective. So if you say that this person is, I'd say cheating all the time, because that's not the only crime in a marriage that can cause it to leave,
Yeah.
But just use cheating, since that's a lot. That's a pretty big piece of the pie. If the person's not cheating, the person is not cheating, and it's just simple as that. At least in the time frame that we were there, and we will make sure that it's beyond a shadow of a doubt. I mean, anybody can get away with anything, but nowadays it's really hard. It's really hard to get away with
I imagine so, if everything is out there.
everything.
Yeah. How do you typically work with a client's divorce attorney, or do you have contact with them at all?
Absolutely. Sometimes it all depends. I have a network of attorneys that I like to deal with, and they always have to be in the same realm that I am. Ethical, it's not about the money. We're actually helping the client, and I work with attorneys a lot. Now, usually if I didn't bring the attorney in with me, I would just gather all the evidence and then we present it to the attorney. Most of the time, it depends on the different attorney, but sometimes we don't want the attorney to know, because we run into problems where attorneys talk to each other, right?
Yeah, you don't want one attorney being too candid with another and tipping somebody off.
And that happened before. It happened recently, right? Where I told the client, look, right now is the investigative phase, and I think we need to go ahead and just keep it highly confidential and keep it to yourself. I will reach out to your attorney, no big deal. Okay, well, that person want to know, so I go ahead and unmask. Okay? Next thing you know, the opposing counsel finds out exactly what's going on. Not only did it waste the client's money, it put our team in danger as well. All our investigators and all that, because they know. And once you know, the case is what? It's over.
Yeah. You can't really be undercover or stealthy about it at all at that point. They see it coming.
Right. We like to think of ourselves as a stealth bomber. By the time the bomb drops, we're already gone already. Before you hear it, we've already done it. So that's the way we like to work. And I love working with attorneys because it helps the client as counseling as well. To see a team together and see that the attorney is not the billable hours. You just can't look at the money.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about private investigators in the context of divorce cases?
That it doesn't apply, that there's no reason to have them. Most of the time, like I said, if a person get a hold of us first, we're able to get all the evidence once they have the attorney. Because the attorney is only going to argue the evidence that the client provides to them. They're not an investigative body, okay? And it'd be better for if you find out that your spouse they might be cheating, or you do want a divorce, or whatever it may be, child custody issues, that's really big. There's a certain guideline that we use to obtain that information. But yeah, the misconception is that they don't need them, but if they have them, they're happy that they did it.
Yeah. divorce cases can be emotionally charged. How do you manage your own reactions when faced with personal or disturbing evidence that you uncover?
Yeah. We're all human beings, right? But we
Yeah.
have a job to do, and we're well versed in all. I mean, there's nothing that we haven't seen before. I mean, deaths, autopsies, financial ruin, suicide. We see all that stuff. So, what we try to do is just remain neutral. Okay, our job is here. And we do care, but we do carry all the emotional baggage that the client carries. We bring it on to us, right? And we feel like they feel. We feel for the kids. We feel for even the person that's the bad guy or the other spouse. We do care because we love the family unit, right? And parents have to understand, even though they're getting divorced, they're always going to be parents. So what we try to do is to help them understand that and get past all the pettiness and things like that. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, being petty can really kind of clog up the gears of a divorce. So being able to feel for people and help them understand that, like you said, the family unit is what's important. And even though you're splitting up, you're still parents. And
Forever.
Yeah, that's not going to change. So if you can focus on that, you can get through the divorce.
Yeah. Well, how hard is that? Because they bring
very hard for a lot of people.
They bring a lot of their own emotions to the whole issue with the kids and things like that.
Absolutely. You spoke a bit about guiding your clients when you have your sit down with them. What advice would you give to those considering hiring a private investigator for their divorces, especially when emotions are running high?
Be quiet.
Yeah.
That's number one. It's called telemarketing. You tell one of your friends what's going on. They go tell their friend, and it goes all the way back to the person that we're investigating, right? Be quiet. Just don't talk about it. Act like you're under Miranda. You got Mirandize. You have a right to remain silent, right?
Yeah.
Anything they do or say will be used against them in a divorce, right? So
yeah, you don't need to show your hand.
Right, just to be quiet and just give us a block of space, to help you. But don't go around and start talking about things. And if we decide, I actually do this as a practice too. All my clients don't get updates. That needs to be earned. I have to have trust in you in order to update you. Because say, for instance, we're in the middle of an investigation and we update you and you go back and you tell the other person what you know, they know someone's on them. How did you know that? So we kind of keep them, it depends on the person. It really does.
Okay. In cases involving child custody disputes, what do parents need to prove? How can a private investigator help obtain the evidence needed to prove?
Okay. That's a good question, right? Most people think that they only need to show that the person drinks a lot or smokes marijuana or, into drugs. The biggest thing you need to find is a time space where it's a regular form of who they are. This is who they are, and it's not a one-off. You have to show a whole body of their lifestyle and who they are truly outside of the purview of being in front of a judge or saying what their attorney is saying. You want the true essence of a person. So therefore, what I try to do is get them to leave them alone. Let them be. If you're irritating soon-to-be ex-wife, kind of continue that, right? If you're quiet and you lay back, just lay back and be quiet. Don't change anything about the way you're going about doing this. If you change anything, their ears are gonna perk up and they won't be who they truly are. So we ask them to just be quiet and just allow us to do our job.
Yep. Wonderful. Can you share an anonymized example of a case where your investigation revealed hidden assets and explain how that evidence changed the course of the divorce proceedings?
Absolutely. It didn't change it. It just, I guess if you say it, it allowed the full picture to be seen. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I won't share a case, but it's been many, where a husband just leaves the wife for a younger girl, and she's been living the whole life with him being a provider, and he takes the money and he goes and starts putting it in different places. A trust doesn't help you, tell you the truth, but it usually, we find it. That's the best way I can put it. Like I said before, nothing that you do, okay, on this planet nowadays is out the purview of someone else finding out.
Yeah, you would have to be in a cave underground and have nothing. You have to divest yourself of humanity. And even then,
they found something, right?
Yeah, even then there's something.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, you have a footprint in this world, and even if you disappear, fake your death, and you go, there's a footprint.
Yeah. There is a way for somebody to find you.
Absolutely. It's expensive.
Yes, it is expensive, but
very.
Yeah. What steps do you take to ensure that the evidence you collect is legally sound and ethically gathered so that it holds up in court if needed?
Absolutely. We have a certain way of doing. We approach every case. It has a schematic. It has we do it the same way, whether it be a homicide case, whether it be a divorce, or we have a certain way that we conduct the investigation, and we document everything. Not only do we do a detailed, but then we do a summary of the detail, and then we do analysis and findings. And in that process, we have all the evidence that's time stamped, whatever it may be. Our report matches our work. That is one of the main things as one of our investigators has to be done correctly. There's no room for error.
Wonderful. That was the last question that I had. Where can somebody who needs a private investigator and is contemplating divorce, where can they find you? How can they contract your services?
Sometimes all they have to do is just type in, "I'm an investigator, Utah."
Yeah.
Right? You probably see me pop up on the first page, probably first or second. It depends. And call and ask questions. The consulting is free. We don't charge you for consulting. And if we feel that, we can achieve that goal for you, then we'll go ahead and engage with you. If we think it's not something we can engage in with them, we just say, "I'm sorry, I wish we can help you." That normally doesn't happen, unless you have a stalking injunction against you, and then you hire a private investigator to go follow the person that you have a stalking injunction against, right? That's illegal. Yeah. So we have to do our backgrounds. We have to check and do our checks on people too as well. But it's really as easy as just typing in private investigator. Not all of us are the same.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, it seems like it is an awesome career, right? You're never bored. You carry a lot of scars, okay, from what you see, but it's the most rewarding act of service you can do for people, and it's really available to people if they really just reach out and just talk to us. I can say Intermountain. There's a lot of investigators out there that's just garbage, and that's fully on them. You have to have integrity. and treat everybody right. And I believe in karma. You know, whatever you go and put in, that's what you're going to get out. So,
All right. Well, thank you so much.
all right.